Today we have the opportunity to talk with Mr. Charles Shay. You're a Penobscot tribal elder,
Yes,
a writer, a decorated veteran of both World War II and the Korean War.
yes.
Mr. Shay,
And I participated also in Operation Castle.
Operation
That
Castle.
was a testing of the hydrogen bomb. In the Air Force, I switched services. I went from the Army. Eventually, I went to the Air Force because it was a much better life.
So, as a Penobscot tribal elder, decorated veteran, you have also received the Legion of Honor, the highest French Order of Merit.
Yes.
Can you tell me a bit more about your background and how you came to join the Army?
The Legion of Merit? Well, it's an award that is given automatically to men that served France during the Second World War. And I received it I participated in the invasion of France, and I was part of the D-Day invasion on the 6th of June, 1944. I was never wounded. I had many friends that were killed. I have a photograph downstairs of a friend of mine that he was a medic also. I was a medic, and he was a medic also, and he got a serious stomach wound on D-Day. Then there was no help, nothing I could do for him. He eventually died in my arms, and I tried to comfort him. But I never found out where his parents lived, until well after the war. And then I started visiting with them, and we became very good friends. And I explained his death to them because they did not know what happened to him. And I mean, they got the news that he was killed, but that was it. But I was able to give them some details. Well, I was drafted in 1944, and when I was drafted, I had no choice. They told me, "You're going to be in the Army." That was it. And, well, I was sent to Camp Pickett for my basic training, Camp Pickett, Virginia. And once I was finished there, I was sent to the General Hospital in Indianapolis, Indiana, for my medical training. And I thought I was going to be working in a hospital. I thought, well, this is pretty neat, but that was not true. I was after I had finished my basic training and everything, and my medical training, I was told I could go home on leave, and that I was to report to New York for a shipment across the Atlantic Ocean on the Queen Elizabeth, because they were using the Queens, Queen Elizabeth, Queen Mary, and several other ships for troop transports, because then they were very fast. The German submarines could not pinpoint them, because once they got them in their sights and fired their weapons, the ship was gone, because they were very fast.
Can you share with me how you wound up in the Big Red One?
How I wound up? No idea. I was shipped overseas. I went to England. And the next thing I knew, I was assigned as a medic to F Company, 2nd Battalion, 16th Infantry Regiment, F Company. And that's where I took my training in England. We trained every day. And on D-Day, 6th of June, we were awakened at about 1 o'clock in the morning and were told to pack and get ready to debark to landing craft from the big ship. And when we went to the deck, the seas were still very high. I think the waves were 6-7 feet high. And it was dangerous to go over the side of the ship on rope ladders. We had to go on rope ladders. And the landing craft were pulled up to the side of the ship, and they were going up 6 and 7 feet high with the waves. And the men that had made it into the landing craft, they gave us advice when to leave the side of the ship. We were on rope ladders going down. They gave us information when to jump, and that we would be safe. And I don't think we had any incidents of anybody being injured. Perhaps, I'm sure there was, but I did not know of any. But I'm sure there was some injuries. As a child, my parents used to go to Lincolnville, Maine, which is on a bay, a beautiful swimming area, and they put up a tent, and it was Indian, like a little Indian village, and sold baskets and Indian novelties. And well, I spent most of my young years going to this village, Lincolnville, Maine, to establish a small Indian village where my parents sold Indian baskets and novelties.
Can you tell me more about your training and time in England?
Yes, well, we trained every day. We boarded ships. There was a small bay that we used there, and I've forgotten the name of it, but it was a training area for ships that the men on ships could use as for false invasions, so that we would get an idea of what we were going to face when we went to France.
Slept-in sands, right? Slept-in sands.
Slept-in sands. Oh yeah, slept-in sands. Yes. And on one occasion, the Germans had broken through the barriers of slept-in sands and attacked the ships, and they killed about 700 Americans. And we were told never to mention that, never to talk about it, because they didn't want to discourage the Americans, because those men died, I will not say for nothing, but they died by surprise that the Germans were able to break through and take down many of the training ships. But anyway, we did not talk about it. We were not permitted to talk because they did not want to discourage the parents of the men that had been killed.
you were a combat medic with the 16th Infantry Regiment. You landed with the first wave at Omaha Beach on D-Day.
Yes, yes.
Can you tell me what it was like?
Well, what it was like. It was very, I don't know how to tell you, but it was a very difficult landing because the Germans were well prepared and they were waiting for us. And when we went ashore in the smaller landing boats, I think they were, I forgot what they called them now, but anyway, they were landing boats and they carried about 30 men, each boat. And the Germans were able to pinpoint them, sink many of them, killed many Americans that were coming in on these small boats, and they killed many Americans before they even got to the beaches where they debarked and could prepare to take battle with the Germans. And well, a lot of men died even on the beaches because the men, especially the infantryman, he was too heavily loaded. He was carrying ammunition, they were carrying mortars, they were carrying machine guns, and of course their rifles. And when they jumped from the landing craft into the water, some of them they were so heavily loaded with equipment, they just sank and drowned right there. And of course I was a medic. I did not have much, no heavy equipment, but I had a lot of medical supplies, and but it was not as heavy as the infantryman was carrying. So I was able to touch the bottom. When I jumped into the water, I was able to, I went in it up to my chest, almost to my shoulders. And I was able to make it to protective areas that the Germans had put up as barriers to avoid, to make it difficult for the infantrymen and the medics, of course, to get from the boats once they were in the water and get to the dry portions of the beach. Many of them were killed, either wounded or killed by the Germans, and well, it was very difficult to establish a beachhead. But we managed to establish a beachhead and proceed inland, and we eventually were able to take the Germans out in their own environment and kill many of them, and we were able to proceed inland eventually. It took a lot of courage and death, of course, and we were able to proceed inland, and eventually we were successful in establishing a beachhead in the German area, and will wipe out the Germans.
So on D-Day, how did you manage to keep moving forward and do your job while still being expected to be a medic?
Well, of course, it was dangerous because medics were not immune from being shot, and we lost a lot of men being killed or wounded by the bullets of the Germans. And it was just fortunate that I was able to survive, or anybody could survive in that environment.
Can you tell me about some of your experiences of being a medic that day?
Well, I was busy. I could not concentrate on, I knew what I was doing. I knew I had a job to do. I knew what it was, but I was still not immune from being wounded or killed. But fortunately, it did not happen to me. Otherwise, I would not be here. So I managed to get through, and eventually, in the late afternoon, I was able to leave the beach, and I proceeded inland alone, of course. I mean, not alone, but with people that I did not know, because we were all mixed up. And I was able to proceed inland, and finally I got so tired that I had to go to sleep, because and I just picked a spot out on my way inland, picked out a spot to spend the night and get some sleep and some rest. And when I woke up in the early mornings hours, I was surrounded by dead Americans and German, because they were dead everywhere. And so the next day I proceeded inland, and I finally, our objective was Colville-sur-Mer. This is a small village on the coast, and I knew the name of the village because it had been impregnated on us. If we get lost, this is what we should look for. So I finally found it. Eventually I found a church. There was a large church there. We had been told about the church to orient ourselves, and well, I finally found the company aid station had already been established when I entered the village, because they had got there before I did. And so I stopped by and asked them for orientation, where F Company was, and different things, so that I would know what I was doing or where I was going. And I eventually found F Company.
What was going through your mind that first night when you went to sleep?
Survival. That's all I can say.
Mr. Shay, you were present at some of the most significant battles of World War II, such as D-Day, Aachen,
Yeah.
Hürtgen Forest, Battle of the Bulge, and at the end of the war you were captured by Germans.
I was captured by Germans, yes. I made it into Belgium, and there was a river called the Sieg River that was separating Belgium from Germany. It was a separating point. And I was selected, the company, the battalion people. They were sending out a small groups of men across the Sieg River, and the Sieg River was connected by a railroad bridge. It was just an open bridge, no protection. And I proceeded across. I was a medic, which I had never heard of a medic being attached to a reconnaissance squad either. And but this happened in my case. I was assigned as part of the reconnaissance squad because I was there to protect them and help the men if they were wounded. And when I was going across the river, across this open trestle bridge, I knew it was going through my mind, either I am going to be killed or I'm going to be taken prisoner. One of the two. There was no doubt about it. So we got to the village. We were about 7 or 8 men, maybe 10, I don't know how many, in the reconnaissance group. And I don't know exactly. And when we got to the village, we came in from the backside, in other words, where the people that were living there had their gardens and so forth. And then we got onto a road that went through the village. And when we got on the road and came around the corner of a house, there was a big Tiger tank, German Tiger tank, standing there with a machine gun on top, with a man at the machine gun. And we were told to drop our weapons and surrender. We had no choice. And that's what I did. And I did not have a weapon. But anyway, we dropped our weapons and the men dropped their weapons and we were taken prisoner. And of course, once we were taken prisoners, the Americans started shelling because they knew that what was going on. They probably had binoculars or something and could see us, and they knew that we were being taken prisoners. They started shelling, and the Germans then told us to hit the ground, drop down, and not move until we were told. So once the shelling by the Americans had eased up, because they were shelling the Germans and the Americans that had been captured, and once the shelling had eased up a little bit, they stopped shelling us, and nobody was hurt. I don't know if any Germans were killed or not, and well, we were taken prisoner. And I was evacuated with the other men. Some of them I never saw again. And we always moved at night because it was too dangerous for the Germans to move during the daytime. We were prisoners, and they always moved us at night because it was too dangerous to move it during the daytime. Well, that's all I can tell you. It's 3 weeks I was a prisoner. I was in a large prison camp, both men and women, and I was working in the kitchen. And we woke up one morning, and the Germans had disappeared. They were gone, because a tank company. I don't know what the name of it was, but anyway, I think it was a tank company relieved us, and we were free to go because the Germans had disappeared overnight, and they had deserted their posts. They left us, the prisoners. There were all types of prisoners in this camp, men and even men and women, different nationalities. And well, once I was recaptured, I went back to the Americans and was processed, and eventually I wound up in a harbor,
Bremerhaven.
pardon?
Bremerhaven.
Bremerhaven. I wound up in Bremerhaven, and I was placed on a ship and went back to the States.
What allowed the 1st Infantry Division to be so successful while you were fighting here in Europe during World War II?
Why was it so successful? Well, I think it was the men. They were dedicated soldiers, and they were fearful. If they had to die, they died. And we eventually sufficed and became victorious, and that was it. We were part of the winning troops that defeated the Germans in our area, of course.
And what do you think about the leadership?
The leadership
And
was
that's
very
fine.
good. We had very good leadership in the 1st Infantry Division, and this was responsible for our victories.
What are some lessons that you would want to pass to soldiers today?
Well, I don't like to say it, but I think the soldier of today should be prepared if it ever comes to a world war to protect the United States and be prepared to fight for the United States any place in the world, because now we never know where the next war is going to take place. And a lot of countries would like to see the United States go down, but I don't think they ever will.
Mr. Shay, you're a role model, a leader for your community, a hero. You've written an autobiography called Project Omaha Beach, and currently you're working on a new biography, Spirits Are Guiding.
Yes.
Can you tell me what inspired you to write that?
What inspired me? My companion, Marie. We have both worked on this book, and she has devoted much of her time, she has devoted her life for the production of this book. And she has many good ideas. I was more or less, I was there for her if she needed me, but I was not as active as she was. She has been very active and productive, And that's why we have the book coming out now.
Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Well, it's just a resume of what happened during World War II and how it proceeded, the various battles, and well, that's about all I can say. She has done a wonderful job preparing the contents of this book. She has worked alone most of the time, and consulted me only when she was in doubt about some questions that would arise. And that's the book that is coming out. If you have a chance, the public, I'm talking to the public now, if you have a chance, you should read it because it's a very complete and wonderful book.
How did you and your fellow soldiers feel about being Big Red 1 soldiers?
Oh, well, we knew that for us, the Big Red 1 was the best unit in the U.S. Army at that particular time. And of course, we were very proud to be a part of this unit. Well, I am happy that I am still here. I will be 100 in about 3 weeks. I never expected to be this old, but I have made it, and I hope that I'll still have a few more years left.
On behalf of the 1st Infantry Division, thank you so much. This has been a true honor.
Yes.
Mr. Shay, I truly thank you. This was fantastic.
Well, we both feel the same about the 1st Infantry Division.
Yes, sir.
No mission too difficult, no sacrifice too great.